The building engineering service industry is growing fast, and with it, the demand for skilled people to train, mentor, and assess the next generation. Today, I'm joined by Dan Kirk from Brooks Kirk, who deliver assessor training, and Jon Hogg,
Hello.
Health and Safety Manager with Ductbusters. Jon has just completed the qualification. So together, we're going to explore what it means to be a qualified assessor and why it matters. So over to you, Dan. Can you briefly introduce yourself and your organisation?
Well, yeah, thank you for that intro and just the trust from your organisation in us to deliver services for you. Yeah, I'm Dan Kirk. I'm third generation Kirk here at Brooks Kirk, and it was my grandmother that set up the training provision in the early 90s. She was head nurse for United Lincolnshire Health Trust and retired with her ward sister colleague, Pat Brooks, to, predominantly offer health and social care specific training. But like many sectors, we all have to have assessments of occupational competence, and it kind of transitioned to the delivery of assessor training and internal quality assurance and teaching training. So yeah, my background is actually in IT personally. But Brooks Kirk, we've been delivering very much an online delivery model since, I think around about 2013. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. We're quite a small team, but we are national, or international, shall I say. You know, we've got candidates from all around the world that want expertise and specific assessor training in an efficient and manageable way, really.
So you've mentioned some of the qualifications. Can you tell me a bit more about the qualifications you provide?
Yeah, so the most important is the assessor qualification. And there's actually a range of them, to be honest. But the one that most people need is what's called the CAVA, which is an acronym for the Level 3 Certificate in Assessing Vocational Achievement. And in a nutshell, once you have that qualification, you can assess in any subject that you are deemed occupationally competent. Now, Jon's going to talk a bit later about what he does, but it doesn't matter whether you're a police officer or whether you are a care practitioner or whether you are in leadership and management. If you're taking people through an MVQ or even lots of apprenticeships and things like that, then everybody has got to be assessed by somebody that's occupationally competent and also has that assessor qual. And that's where we come in. We can get that done.
Fantastic. So going back to the assessor qual, what does that involve?
It's not that bad, is it?
No.
I mean, it's 3 units. You know, it is 3 units of study, but it's not. You know, it's not just a 2-day workshop. You know, it is a full-blown MVQ. The first unit is a knowledge and a theory, where we break down all the criteria into bite-sized modules. Now, the way that we do it is largely with tutorial videos and things like that, because we find that some people just don't have the time to be able to commit, you know, a full day on X, Y, and Z. And some people actually like to do it like late at night. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
And it allows people to progress through efficiently, get that feedback, and then keep moving on. So first unit, knowledge and theory, 30 odd hours, I think is reasonable. The second and third unit is where it becomes practical. Now, we have to assess people doing the job to be able to sign them off. It's not just here's a bit of knowledge and there you go. And that's a little bit about our secret sauce. I'm not going to go into too much about it, but ultimately, we will provide here at Brooks Kirk absolutely everything that's needed for you as a learner to get qualified. We'll provide access to a couple of our team members, our candidates, so that you can get the evidence that you need and not more, really. And from an employer's point of view, you know, you guys, you don't have to worry about external resourcing and booking people off and making sure that there's a qualified nominated observer to support the trainee who's in post that's probably up in Birmingham and then all of a sudden down in Coventry the next, you know, It's just not how the real world works. So we take care of all of that. It's not a huge amount of time to get the second unit done. And the third unit is just about assessing knowledge and understanding of students. So, well, not just students, staff, and I use that term quite loosely to be fair, but it's anybody that's doing formal learning, whether it's as part of accredited MBQs or even recently, it's just part of regular monitoring, just part of regular monitoring from some staff. They regularly get assessed, like train drivers and individuals and organisations like that, for making sure that they are working to the industry specified standards. So yeah, that's pretty much the assessor in a nutshell. What was your takeaways from it, John?
Caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting a question.
Nor was I. That's why I did it.
The question, what were my takeaways from
it wasn't that bad, was it?
No, it was really straightforward. Really, the team at Brooks and Kirk are really supportive. There's always someone you can reach out to. And like Dan said, it's all accessible online and tutorial led. I found one of the main benefits was being able to pick it up and put it down when it's suited almost, and you could complete it at your own pace. No, it was really good. It was a real smooth journey. We got there in the end.
Yeah. I mean, you progressed very rapidly, to be fair, but I'm not going to go into too much about that. But
I think I had a one point where I didn't do anything for a couple of months, but once time at work allowed, and I was in a position to pick it back up, you can do it as quickly as you like.
How long did it take you to complete it then, John?
12 weeks, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe 12 weeks, yeah.
It's reasonable space of time then.
Yeah, we say roughly around about 3 to 6 months if you commit in a couple of hours per week, roughly. Yeah. But it does depend. I mean, everybody's different. Everybody learns at different paces. Some people have got great command of written communication. Some struggle. Some people absolutely love the live practical aspect. Some people get a bit stressed and worried. You know, that's just part and parcel of working with people, isn't it, really?
Yeah, individual learning styles, isn't it? You just mentioned there, how long did you say that people generally need to commit to per week?
If I was advising, well, you as an employer, then I would be expecting a good amount of progress, if not finished, within about 3 to 6 months. But if for whatever reason, you know, something happens, I don't know, there's a life commitment that takes over, a slight change in role or whatever, it is longer than that. If people need more time, that's fine. Within reason, of course. You know, we can't have people on for like 3 years or anything like that. But ultimately, yeah, from your point of view, you should expect somebody done in around about, I would say, 6 months as a norm. But yeah, John blasted through it a bit quicker.
I think 6 months is realistic, a couple of hours a week.
Yeah, it's not too bad, is it?
No.
So how does this help address skill shortages across industries?
Oh my goodness. Well, I can talk about that generically because, you know, we work with lots of different sectors. I think John will probably need to talk in a bit more detail about his organisation and how they work. But there are many barriers to certain jobs. You know, we all know that you're not getting a job unless you've got a certain piece of paper. You know, you might need a CSCS card to get on certain sites, construction-wise. And as part of that, you do require a formal MVQ to prove that you are an expert practitioner in that role. You know, the grandfather rights have gone. You know, that was what,
2022?
Yeah, I think it was. So even people that have been on the tools for decades now still have to have a piece of paper to their name. And it all comes down to accountability at the end of the day, when, especially if it's to do with like public money. If something goes wrong, well, who trained them? So it all comes down to that accountability and confirmation. So I've waffled, haven't I? Coming back to your question, skill shortages. There's been quite a lot of people that have decided not to do their MVQs because they used it as an opportunity to retire, which is really sad because that level of competence kind of goes. But becoming an assessor allows you to stick within your subject that you are most specialised and love, but not necessarily always having to be on the front line. I mean, construction's huge for us, and I use that term. You know, engineering is massive, but you can't just say, "Oh, I'm an engineer," because it's like, you know, you've got wind turbine specialists, you've got automation in warehousing, you've got so many different substrands of that role, and ultimately you need to have a piece of paper to get some of those positions.
I agree. I think we're facing the biggest skill shortage in our industry for certainly as long as I can remember. Predominantly for the reasons that Dan covered. It's now more about demonstrating competence. It's not just whether you can do the job. It's about demonstrating about demonstrating your competence. And without the formal provision in place, we've just not been able to, as an industry, to demonstrate that competence. There's not been enough assessors out there, and with the Building Safety Act and the change to the competence landscape, I don't think we're going to have enough assessors unless we get more through with the likes of this scheme from BESA. We're not going to be able to keep up with proving the competency of our industry.
Yeah, and everything's I talk very loosely about things like automation because I don't really know a huge amount about the sorts of work that you guys do. I've got a loose idea, but roughly talk us through HVAC and stuff like that.
So the Building Engineers Services Association is quite a broad association. The specialism or the subsector of it that I work in is ventilation hygiene. So think ductwork in hospitals, offices, and cleaning that ductwork and making sure that it's clean, fit for use, and just generally maintaining. But there is so many other parts of BESA that I'm sure Debbie can run through a bit more. But everything from ventilation to air conditioning, everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of the areas within building engineering services are quite specialised as well, which is, as you say, that is where we're struggling quite a lot when it comes to training and assessment, because like you mentioned, there's not enough assessors out there. So if somebody came to you and said they wanted to do their assessor qualification, what qualifications would they need to hold prior to doing the assessor qualification?
Oof. That is an excellent question. I think it's one for me, really. This is a bit weird, but to enrol on the assessor qualification, you need nothing. However, to get a job as an assessor, that's different. Because I mentioned earlier, didn't I, that you have to be occupationally competent in your subject. And that is a vague statement in its own right. Some sectors, you've got to have a qualification to be deemed occupationally competent. Whereas others, you might not necessarily need a piece of paper, but your CV needs to demonstrate that you've not just come straight out of school and you've gone into the role and now you want to assess it. There needs to be a certain element of proof. So, for example, let's say a bricklayer. You could have a bricklayer that's top of the game, does all the different joints and I'm waffling, but that may never have a piece of paper to their name. But now, they're going to need to get a level 2 pretty much as a minimum just to prove that they're safe in how they're working, to make sure that they're compliant with equality legislation, working with others, environmental impact assessments, risk assessments, all these things that we all have to think about. So you don't technically need anything. Even if people, I know the way that we deliver the training is predominantly online, other than a few of the bits and bobs, but we have some people that have never even turned a computer on before. And it's going to be a bit more of a challenge for individuals of that nature, but we need to get people more comfortable in using technology. So just think of that as like a little bit of value added. You might come on board with us with a bit of a panic of technology, but it's more often than not, I find it's a confidence barrier as opposed to an actual competence barrier. But that's why we've got a team of people behind that we can offer remote support. We can log into their computer as if we're sat next to them and offer that extra bit of tuition on how to use Microsoft Word to structure a table correctly or how to do some formula in Excel. But it wasn't that bad, was it, really? It's just pretty much... If you know how to download, upload a file, send emails, then it's kind of a similar sort of set of competencies. So to answer your question, you don't need anything to enrol. You do need a good command of written English and spoken English. It is a qualification in English, of course. So, yeah, that's pretty much it.
So once someone's qualified, what doors does it open for them? What can they do with that qualification? I know you mentioned maybe apprenticeships or NVQs. Does it open out further than that?
Well, it is seen as a benchmark in how staff are, their competency is assessed. So it doesn't always have to be that it's as part of formal government accredited training. It's still adopted by like the Policing College for their assessments of police officers. Lots of them require them to be qualified and competent NVQ assessors, even though they're not necessarily doing specific units towards a qual, for example. And like the oil, gas, utility sectors, rail, engineers, I mean, it's not always the piece of paper, but they are monitored and continuously assessed for safety and compliance. So, yeah, it's a standardized approach to how we can treat everybody that is being assessed fairly. How can we ensure that we're catering for candidates that might have additional requirements in place? And most importantly, how we as the assessors can present that evidence to whoever's looking at it, the powers that be further up. So it doesn't matter where they're coming from, they'll know what to expect in an observation report, how it's structured, know where to find the evidence, and it doesn't take people hours just to try and work out how the hell they set the portfolios up.
So, last one for you, Dan. Well, for now anyway. What would you say to encourage someone considering taking the next step?
I mean, for people that work in practical trades, often health is a concern for people. They might be, had an accident at work that limits certain activities, and that often is a one key type of individual. They want like a plan B. They're not there yet, but they know the back's giving way. Even especially in our hair and beauty practitioners that we work with, they're stood on their feet day in, day out for hours at the chair. And, they want an option so that they can continue with the vocation, but not necessarily have to be directly on that front line all the time. We often find that people maybe start off like part-time as an assessor. They might just have a handful of learners so they can fit it in around their commitments in the workplace. So yeah, that's kind of the type of person. You've often got people whom have got experience in managing staff, CPD of staff. If we realise, oh my goodness, I've got a real shortfall in X subject area, then often it's that person or the HR team that are required to get them trained up. So often people can just transition into these roles quite naturally.
Very flexible, isn't it? Mm. Jon,
Hello.
can you tell me a little bit about your background and the industry you're in?
Oh, it's a bit personal now, isn't it?
I have worked for Ductbusters for about 15 years. Originally started out as an operative, cleaning ductwork. 15 years ago, I was given a opportunity by a chap called Ben Quinn. And 15 years later, I progressed from being an operative to running projects, large-scale construction projects, and eventually to health and safety manager, where I work very closely with our training and competence manager to ensure our workforce are trained correctly and we can properly demonstrate their competence.
So what made you decide to do this, to do the qualification?
It was just about giving something back to industry, to be honest, and not just the company that I work for, but giving something back to the wider industry. I think we've all recognised that there is a real. I don't think there's a skills shortage. I think the industry has the skills, but I think we have a shortage on demonstrating the competency, and the longer it takes to demonstrate competency across industry, the longer it's going to keep holding the industry back, and the industry is going to struggle to grow.
How did you find the actual training process? I know we've touched on this a little bit already, haven't we?
I think Dan's probably covered it better than I can, but he's absolutely right that Dan and his team are really supportive. They're always available. They're really approachable. If you don't quite get something right the first time round,
It's not going to happen all the time. That
no,
you get it first time.
of course. And they deliver feedback in a really constructive and helpful way. They're really friendly. There's various sessions that you have to do on Teams, and it can be a bit daunting at first. It really takes you out of your comfort zone.
But good.
Yeah, absolutely. But
because if it doesn't, there's no point in doing it. If it's just like a walk in the park, then
yeah.
What was the most valuable thing you think you took from the course?
I think it's made me look at training or assessment completely differently. It's made me realise that no two people learn the same. No two people learn the same, and it's really important to look at training or assessment holistically and fit the assessment method to the learner. It's really taught me that there's a complete range of assessment methods out there, and there's an assessment method that can be used for anyone, no matter how they learn.
Yeah, when I did my assessor training, one of the key takeaways for me is actually how difficult it is to take notes for evidence. Some of the police officers we work with are absolutely fine on it, but for me, it was a good challenge, making sure everything was legible and readable. It's not just tick boxes. You have to try and explain why what you've just seen is good. It's completely different to, say, like a driving test where they're trying to find 1,000,001 reasons to fail you. You've just done a minor incursion on that double yellow line or whatever. For us, we're trying to find reasons to say why they're good at their job. And it is a bit of a mindset change for some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jon, how has becoming a qualified assessor impacted your career so far?
Wow.
Well, we was just discussing this just before. So it's only been 2 weeks, so it's a little bit early to tell you how it's impacted so far. But I am really looking forward to using it to support wider industry. Ductbusters, the company I work for. Can't wait to start getting people supported and assessed to prove their competencies.
So really that's how it's impacting already, isn't it, for Ductbusters as well, because you're now going to be able to support within.
Yeah, we currently use an external training provider who are they're absolutely fantastic with coming out to the site and doing on-site assessments, but we've got 60 engineers that we need to prove competency for. There's only going to be so much or so far we can stretch them.
Yeah, and how it impacts employers. If you know you've got qualified assessors in your team, that puts us as employers in a really interesting negotiation strategy with these training providers, because we could say, look, we've got 60 members of staff that need to be assessed in the next coming 12 months. What about we can negotiate some of the training fees if I have one of our members of staff on our payroll doing some of those assessments and getting them signed off? Of course, I'm happy for you to go in and do your quality assurance and all that kind of stuff. But it does offer that flexibility, because when you are working with external organisations, you've got to book the time. You've got to, get all your eggs in one basket sometimes. And if you've got an in-house person whom you might have a colleague that's doing a piece of coursework and they just have a chat with somebody in the lunchroom. Natural support that is actually, from an employer's point of view, costs nothing on the payroll.
Yeah.
But, from an employer's perspective, it is quite exciting, because if you decide that there's a fantastic applicant for a job, but they've not quite got their piece of paper, then you can be more willing to take that risk, because you know that you could get them through with the resources that you have in-house.
Excellent. Jon, what would you say to someone in the industry who was thinking about becoming an assessor? You've been there yourself. What would you say to someone who was thinking about it?
Go for it. Give something back. Give something back to the industry. inspire and support the next generation.
And to be fair, for what it costs, I mean,
it's
probably only a day's wage for this gentleman.
And it's great. Yeah, it's just go for it. Yeah, it's really good.
Once you've got it on your CV, you've got it forever at the end of the day. And, this is further education. This does unlock additional opportunities that traditional things like maybe you might need a degree for. And we all know how expensive it is to do something like a degree. So, in the grand scheme of things, tradespeople are more than willing to sink £600-800 on a new tool.
Yeah.
No questions asked. Oh, this will improve my efficiency by 1 or 2%. No problem. Easy expense. But when it comes to training, that's one thing that's often put on the back burner.
Yeah, I agree. Jon, I'm gonna throw one at you now.
Go on.
So I know you've just completed this qualification, but can you tell me what your next steps are as far as your own CPD goes?
I've enrolled on the IQA course with Brooks Kirk, and we've got a couple of members of our team at Ductbusters have enrolled on the Assessor course via the scheme from BESA. So it just felt like a natural next step to do the IQA course. I've also done the award in education and training with Brooks Kirk, because I felt the support was really fantastic, and it was a pleasure to work with them. So as part of my ongoing CPD.
Just to explain for the uninitiated, the IQA is the internal quality assurance. No, it's absolutely fine. It's sometimes a little bit of a mystified role, but it's really important because the IQA is responsible to bring everything together within the training setting to make sure that every assessor is working to a consistent standard that the industry expects. Because it is very easy for you to slightly deviate away from the centre line with our assessment decisions, and it's the IQA's responsibility to keep everybody in check, to monitor CPD, to liaise with awarding bodies and people further up in the chain of command. And it is taxing. It's not just you're now IQA, off you go. There are strategies that we have to follow, and this all disseminates from Ofqual's process for further education to ensure that every training setting has these sorts of processes and systems to ensure we uphold and maintain high standards of training and assessment in the UK. And it's why we're seeing such a huge demand for training overseas for UK quals, because actually they would rather an oil and gas operative in the Middle East would rather have a UK qualification because they know the rigour and standards that it goes through.
Yeah. So, to both of you, in one sentence, why should someone consider becoming a qualified assessor?
It gives a plan B.
Yeah.
And I think I'd go with just to give something back, to the industry and to support the next generation.
Yeah, every day is a learning day, and sometimes people feel that, I'm just doing the same thing I've been doing for the last few years. So doing this does allow people to re-engage and relearn some new skills as well. Every day we learn.
Thank you both for your time today. So qualified assessors are essential to the future of the industry. They uphold standards and they ensure we've got the skills needed for the future. If you've got experience, now's the perfect time to take the next step. We've got funding from Manley Trust, which BESA members can access, and they can receive up to £750 reimbursement towards the cost of the training. To get started, simply visit the Skills and Training Hub on the BESA website or contact us direct at BESA Skills Advisory. Thanks everyone for watching, and we look forward to welcoming more skilled professionals into this rewarding role.
Thank you.
Thank you.